Okay, I'm scheduled to hit some pull today, which would basically be lats, rear delts, upper back, biceps, forearms, anything that you use when you extend the shoulders in either of these planes. Your pull days are oftentimes lumped together as like back and biceps, or upper back, shoulders, biceps, lats, etc. We're gonna hit all those today, but in the spirit of teaching you guys some new things and also kind of just keeping things fresh, because we started today's session with some filming here at the studio, I'm gonna try to include things in my session today that you guys either have not done or are somewhat unique. Nothing stupid and inefficient for sure, but stuff that I would guess that most of you have not done or don't do very often. So it won't be like 4 sets of 10 lat pull down, 4 sets of 10 barbell row. Like, it's not gonna be like the just most basic pull day ever. We'll try to keep it fun and entertaining. So those are stuck behind the plates. First thing I'm gonna use to actually get started on the session today is the suspension trainer, or the TRX. I use TRX here at the studio because I think they make the best product. But the cool thing about using a suspension trainer is you get to use your own body weight, and you can really use some kind of unique planes of motion at the shoulder joint specifically. And whenever I train pull, I like to work my rear delts, the muscles on the back of the shoulder, my upper traps, these muscles here that run into the neck, mine are not particularly big, the lower traps here, these muscles that kind of come down into the shape of a V. And it's tempting to just get right into the lats or like right into the bicep work. But starting with the suspension trainer, I really like. So I'm gonna do a combination of 3 moves that I do a ton here with the clients. The first is the T-fly. This is for the delts and the rear delts. The Y-fly, a little bit of lower traps, again, some more shoulders. And the face pull, okay? Very common way to perform the face pull with a cable. So T, Y, and then face pull, which is really just tons of external rotation. T, Y, and face pull. So that's 3 rounds. I'm gonna go 5 rounds here. T, Y, face pull. Last one. T, Y, and face pull. And with that kind of 15 reps, 5 in each position, the external rotators are quite pumped. All of the muscles that kind of work in the back of the shoulder are quite pumped. Very effective way, in my opinion, to get ready for a pull day. A lot of you guys will grab a band like this, for example, and do some pull aparts or some dislocations. And I think that's pretty good. In fact, we did a push video about a couple weeks ago, and I started with those warm-ups, and they're good. I will say, these, to me, are just a little better because they feel like they're a little bit more of an actual workout. I'm actually training the tissue a lot harder, and it's a warm-up that when you're done with it, you can probably count it as 2 sets of shoulders. Because, here I am about halfway done with my second of 2 rounds, and my shoulders are pumped in a good way. Not in a way that like I won't be able to train, but in a way that like I know, holy smokes, like I started off my pull day by warming up my upper back and shoulders, and my rear delts are already shot. So a common first exercise to do on a pull day is gonna be, some type of compound exercise. So a row or a pull down. And I'm inclined to start today with a row. I'm gonna do a row variation that I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of. Maybe you've tried it, maybe you haven't. I find that it's fairly uncommon, and it's an inverted row or an Australian pull-up, which I'm guessing the name Australian pull-up comes from the fact that you do it like down under the bar. I have absolutely no way of confirming whether or not that's true, but as you can see here, I'm using my Rogue multi-grip bar. So all these different grip positions allow me, when I'm under the bar doing my row, to find a different position. So I look at the inverted row as being basically the row equivalent to a pull-up. Okay, so a pull-up is a body weight exercise. You're gonna be limited by your strength and your grip, of course, but the inverted row is super similar. So see all these different grips? I can go here, I can go here, or I can go here. I find that the middle is perfect. And then what I'm doing is I'm keeping my feet pretty still and I'm just pulling my chest up to the bar. At the top, I have hips extended, kind of like almost at the top of a hip thrust. But going for reps here, full stretch at the bottom is not sitting on the floor, right? It's here and up and up. Getting as many as I can, just like I would if I were starting my day with a pull-up. But in that situation, it's more of a horizontal row than it is a vertical pull down. And so I think of this exercise here as the horizontal equivalent of the pull-up. And I think that even using a suspension trainer here and doing like a TRX row is a cool body weight exercise for sure. But the amount of weight you get to lift, relatively speaking, when you lift your body weight from this position is very substantial. So I love the inverted row. You can do it with a regular barbell too. But with these multi-grip bars, it's fantastic. So we're gonna do 2 sets to failure with that guy. Get a little water here. Already over caffeinated. But taking that 1 to 2 reps from failure, getting a big stretch at the bottom, focusing on horizontal pulling patterns. So let's get into set number 2. Let's try the wider grip just to see how it feels for set 2 of 2. We're doing 2 sets here, and I think we'll be pretty rocking and rolling. So chest up to the bar is the goal. See if we can get 15. There you go. So lots of biceps, lots of grip, but really hitting into that mid back. Good exercise for developing your lats and lower traps and all of that. So moving into exercise 2. One that I'm sure many of you have done a million billion times. It may be probably other than the lat pull down, it's probably the most popular back day exercise in existence. It's a 1-arm row. I'm sure you've done this many times with a dumbbell. Kind of looks like this. Now, I like them with the dumbbell. Don't get me wrong, I think they're great. But I've been doing them this way. And in time, over the years, I've found doing more of my rowing work on cables tends to be a little bit better for getting the kind of stretch I want and rowing with a good amount of intensity. Now, I actually found this one day when I was in my garage because I had one of these machines in my garage and I wanted to work on my 1-arm rows. And I noticed that if I set the dual cables up at the very bottom, and like if I'm rowing with my right arm, which we'll start with, I actually put the left cable, all the way to the bottom, grab it with my right hand. So it's always left cable, right hand, right cable, left hand. I get somewhere right around here so that I can kind of be in the same position I'd be in if I had the dumbbell. But instead of the row being here, It's a little bit more here. My arm is forward a little bit, and I can't do that with a dumbbell because the dumbbell has to move fairly up and down. But with a cable, I can do this. And man, oh man, is this like my new favorite way to row by quite a bit. The stretch you get is awesome. You can probably see even in the lat, I get some good stretch there. Then you can still get a great row. Almost the same kind of effect you would get if you were doing one of those kind of chest supported high rows. The arm path feels very similar here. Feels awesome. Big stretch at the bottom, rowing up. And you can even add in a little bit of extension and lift the chest if you want. So these I've absolutely been loving. I think this is my favorite way to do the one arm row now, by far. Not that I don't like them with the dumbbells. Again, it's a good movement, but that arm path, like from here to here, doesn't really work. It's more of a north and south thing. Okay, straight up and down. Great lift. But here, I have a little bit more ability to get some stretch. And so here we are with our first real set with a working weight. Very stretched at the bottom position. Pulling up. Pulling up. You can set your feet however you like. I find here, all of my weight on my left arm, pressing on the cable arm here, super stable. Boom, boom. And then here again, just below the joint of the cable. Again, however, like if you're taller than me, which many of you might be, you might go a little higher, but just like that. So this has become my new favorite way. Maybe it's not better, but it's unique. It's my new favorite way to train the one arm row. Anytime you're doing one arm rows, you're getting a component of anti-rotation. So like it's kind of a 2-in-1. On a barbell row, you're here and you have to practice a lot of anti-extension. So you don't want to do this. So your core works to maintain this position. But there's really no element of anti-rotation because you have a load across 2 points of contact. In a one arm row, there's always the desire to rotate towards the load. So your core works really hard here to resist that rotation. So in a lot of ways, a one arm row is like a row plus an anti-rotation exercise. And with this, not only do you get that component of anti-rotation, because like as you can see, I'm rotating towards the load. I'm gonna lock that down. I also have the ability to, as I row in, I can get a little extension. Can lift up a little bit. You can stay down too. Key thing is just finding a way to row. What do you do with your hand? Probably anything but this. No palms down. Neutral, good. Palms up, good. Palms down, never. Almost never on a row do you want your palms facing down. This is much less effective for getting a good range of motion than this or this. This just kind of jams up the shoulder. This just lets the arm move. You can see how much more extension I get. Look at where my elbow ends up. Palm up, palm neutral, whoa, palm up, whoa. So you get way more range of motion On a pulling exercise or on a row, in most cases, when your palms are neutral or up. I'll show you on the TRX. So it's worth noting, when you do a pulling exercise of any kind, pull down, row, etc., you're going through the shoulder. And, you know, to hit the lats, a lot of people say like, well, your elbows don't need to break past the midline, which is kind of true. Your lats don't really move the arm this way, but something does, right? Your shoulder. And there's nothing wrong with getting some extra shoulder. But in a row, if I'm here and I'm doing my TRX rows with my palm down, my shoulders kind of run out of space. But the minute I do this, I get so much more range of motion. Palms up, same thing. So on your rows, dumbbells, cables, TRX, etc., don't row with the palms down. I would say row with the palms in neutral or the palms up. You'll get better range of motion. You'll get more out of the movement. Okay, next series of lifts. We did a warm-up set there in 2 sets. So we started with a row over there. And we started with a row more unilateral right here. We are going to do now a favorite of mine, the straight arm pull down. However, I'm going to mix it up a little bit and we're going to add in a bench. I really like doing this because I find it just adds a little bit of stability. Not that you need it, because quite frankly, it's not a very unstable exercise to begin with. However, I quite like the added stability. So lining up our bench with the cable, kind of want to be able to have a smooth ramp, just like this. So this will work perfect. So to get into position, you got to put your butt in the seat. I recommend raising the seat. So at the top, I have a stretch. And then I'm pulling straight down. Stretch. The key at the top is to feel the stretch. So I'm actually hitting the cable because of the mobility in my shoulders. So I'm going to get actually forward here. Try that again. Again, the seat up so you stay kind of locked in. All right. There we go. So at this fully stretched position, I can let my shoulders get pulled towards the cable, but I'm not actually on the cable. Unless, of course, I really let my hands slide down to the end. So let's get a couple of reps here like this. Big stretch, down, and I'm pushing my palms all the way to my thighs. Big stretch at the top. So I can really feel my lats here. And again, because it's a straight arm movement, unlike the last two where I let some elbow flexion, which is basically just elbow bending occur, on the row, boom, or on the cable row, boom, that flexion is going to let me use my biceps, which are fairly strong. When I do the straight arm pull down, I'm doing it with my elbows in extension. So I can't really use my biceps to help. So my lats are really doing a lot of the work. And interestingly, another muscle that comes into play here is actually the triceps. So one thing you'll see when people do the straight arm pull down, you might see it from this angle. I'm not that lean, so I'm not a great example, but the triceps, especially when you get towards the finished position, they're pretty flexed. So this movement is actually a back and triceps move. And that's fairly uncommon. Most of your pulls, whether it be the inverted row I showed there, or probably the most classic example ever, a lat pull down, especially a close grip one like this. Look how much elbow flexion has to happen. This is probably a good amount of biceps to pull down like this. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, like when we talk about today being a pull day, of course I want biceps to show up. But we're going to bounce back and forth between this and this, treating this as a back and tricep, and this as more of a true back and bicep. So let's go to 140 pounds here. We did about 10 of these. Let's see if we can get about 10 of these. Another thing I like to do, push my heels up like a calf raise. So I'm really set and locked in to my machine. Okay, so this is a more vertical overhead pull. This is obviously more horizontal, and I would argue that the second movement we did was also horizontal. So we doubled up on the horizontal pulls. Now we're doubling up on the more vertical pulls. And when I put a pull day together, or when I'm training my back, I'm always thinking about getting a nice 50-50 split of pulling with a horizontal range, or plane, sorry, and a vertical plane. Because when we train muscles and when we train movements, like for example, if we're training the lats, I know that my lats contribute in all these planes, and maybe a little more from like here to here, and maybe it's other muscles when I'm here to here, to get a full pull day and train the various functions of all the muscles that pull. My arm path needs to change. And like we did a T, we did a Y, we did a face pull, we did an inverted row, we did a one arm row, we've done a straight arm pull down, and now we've done a lat pull down. After that, there isn't an arm path I haven't trained. And if you study bodybuilding at all, whether or not you have any interest in being a bodybuilder, you have to acknowledge that successful bodybuilders have figured something out when it comes to developing the back. Very few athletes in any sport, besides maybe swimming and grappling, have backs like bodybuilders. And it's because they figured out that you have to train your back from all these different angles. And I think that's a great tactic to deploy, take advantage of. Even if you have no interest in being a bodybuilder. Even if you just want a strong, resilient, functional physique, training your back from all these different angles and employing all these different arm paths is a great idea. So that time I only got 7 because my lats are getting fairly torched now. This is taking more of a toll than anticipated. We'll do 3 sets here, and then we'll move on to some pulling movements for the arm specifically. So that's kind of the key to having like fairly well-rounded back training. You really need to think about it as a game of angles and a game of adjusting arm paths. And if you guys go back and you watch the video on the channel from a couple weeks ago where I was training push, we were talking about shoulder raises and like all the different planes in which the shoulder can move. So, you know, it's like here, 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 and here, just to train the totality of this deltoid. Same thing with the lats in the back. Shoulders got to be here to here, and all these different arm paths, boom, 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 they all hit the lat. Or rather, that's a misstatement. They all hit the back. The lats, the big kind of like muscles that poke out of the side, they do a lot of their work. from like the overhead to about here, and then boom, to about the midline. Once you go past the midline, and this kind of clicked for me, I don't even remember where I heard this. Somebody smarter than me though, but like once you're here and you pull farther, it's more shoulder. And like when I look in the mirror and I do this, it really is clear to me when I look at my rear delt, like it definitely pumps up when I go there, but it's not really working here. But when I go back, I see it like contract. And so I think you're like rowing, it's like lats, 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 shoulder, 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 shoulder. And so for a lot of people, when they just want to train lats, they do something like this and they only really pull to that midline. And that's very present on the pull down. Your arms literally finish in that position. So one last set here for our lats. Little triceps coming in here. Straight arms, and then boom, look at where the biceps are, midline. Not to say the shoulder's not working here, it definitely is, but we're really having a heavy load on the lats. Ooh. And finish it off with some of these. Only got 6 there. So the first one I got 10, then 7, and then 6. And to me, that's a good indicator that the muscles are fairly gassed. I wanted to get 10 on each set, but it wasn't gonna happen. And I think that's a good way if you're kind of keeping score at home. Like, how do I know I'm picking good weights? Like, if you select a weight and you have a rep range of 10, and all 3 sets you get 10 reps, it's a good idea the next time you perform that exercise to either add weight or add reps. Like a good example, I think, of a productive set or exercise is like, I wanted to do 3 sets of 10, and I picked a weight, and on the first one I got 10, and then on the next one I got 9, and then on the next one I got 8. It's like, you picked a weight that was really hard, and after each set you could do less. That's a form of overloading the tissue. I think it's like right out in the open. I wish more people understood that. What a lot of people do is they pick a weight that they can do for 10 easy, then they go up again and they get another 10, and then they go up one last time and it's like, oh, I got 8 on the last one. It's like, so only the last one was really hard. And so I'm cool with a warm-up set to just feel it out. But if the weight you start with, you get 10 reps every time, you started too light, and that's super normal. You just kind of want to fix that. Okay, we're going to get into some biceps now. And this is a favorite of mine. Most people hate it. I think all of my clients hate it. It's probably the most common exercise I prescribe for biceps because I know for a fact it's mostly biceps. And a lot of people, when they curl, we'll use 20 pounders here for the demo. When they're training the biceps, they get a little sloppy and they're using some English, as my old high school weightlifting coach would call it, putting a little mustard on it. It's a lot of momentum. And when you do the incline curl, the seated incline curl, you are really killing any ability you have to use momentum. So you want your feet kind of close. So if they're way out here, you're gonna run into your thighs, unless you have like really small legs. We don't know nothing about that here. So right here, head back or head neutral, arms at your sides, biceps behind your pecs, okay? Biceps behind your pecs. Your nipples should be further out than your biceps. Curl up, come down. You can do the rotational curl. I like to just keep my palms up the whole time. way less momentum. You can do it one arm at a time. I like to do both. Stretch, pause, flex. Stretch, pause, flex. And what's happening here is I'm taking momentum out of the equation. The only thing moving these weights is my biceps, okay? Obviously my forearms, etc. But if I stand up and I start swinging, all of a sudden I'm using front delts, and I would like to avoid that. So I'm nice and stable, feet on the dumbbells, feet on the floor, curling up, putting that stress on the target tissue, not letting myself cheat that movement, not letting myself use other muscles. And that actually gets me a really good pump in my biceps and my forearms too, but with only 20 pounds. Like, if I'm doing a standing curl, I can curl a little more, but I can't always guarantee that I'm hitting my biceps. And what's cool about that is when the shoulder is here and the nipples are in front of the biceps basically, I can assume that my bicep is lengthened, okay? So it's very stretched. And when your bicep's very stretched and you're doing these curls, you're hitting it in its more lengthened position, which is a very fancy way to say that I'm hitting it with greater stretch, which is probably good for muscle growth. And I don't know about you guys, but when I think about my biceps, I typically train them for growth more than strength or more than explosiveness, because in my day-to-day life, how my arms look is more important to me than like having the heaviest curl in the gym. But maybe on like a squat or a deadlift, I'm focused on strength. But on these exercises, my focus is pretty much hypertrophy. So what we'll do is we will pair that exercise where my shoulders were back and my biceps were lengthened with something where the opposite is the case. So something a little more shortened. And how we'll do that is using the cable and curling to the front of the body. So the arms are now gently in front. So this is a little harder in the shortened position. And you can do this with dumbbells. It's called a spider curl. Or you can just do it on a machine where you face the cable. Just to give you guys an example, this right here is identical to what I just did. Notice the arm position, it's back. The nipple's here, the bicep is here. That's more lengthened. However, simply turning around to the front, allowing the shoulder to be more internally rotated in front of the body, and curling like this, a little more shortened. So we're not counting reps here. We're just going pretty close to failure, getting a good pump. And there you have it. And so these two exercises are how we're going to finish off our pull day. The incline curl and the cable curl in which we're facing the machine. So we'll go again here. This time we'll add some more weight. Demonstration purposes have been achieved. Now I will add a meager 5 pounds, which on this exercise feels like 50. So here we go. Arms at the sides, and we're curling. Down slow, pause at the bottom. Let the actual stretch happen. A lot of people do these and they're so fucking hard, they just stop here and they don't actually go all the way down. And that's kind of the whole point of this exercise, is allowing the bicep to just kind of die down here. Let it run out of momentum. It's gotta pull you out of that bottom position where you have less strength and there's certainly more strain. And doing that and like stopping halfway, you might as well just half rep the damn curl standing up, like you're not getting any of those same benefits. Which is kind of a bummer. And so into this more shortened bicep position, harder at the top. It's actually kind of easy at the bottom. So a little bit different of a feeling. Hands can go there like that. I also find they can kind of come towards each other. And so I find the pump, the sensation, feeling your biceps, easier on the shortened position. And I think that's true for most exercises. Think about a leg extension. If you get this huge pump, you really feel your quads. That is like the only exercise that hits those quads in their shortened position. And a lot of our favorite exercises to do where we really feel them, they're more shortened position exercises. The more lengthened position ones, they tend to really suck. They're hard, you can't use a ton of weight. They're definitely not gonna give you the same pump, but the next day, because of all that stretch and because of all the damage, and usually because of the great range of motion, they can make you feel really sore. They can really contribute to some awesome growth in the muscle, but you have to commit to getting better at them. And I'll tell you one thing, as I'm sitting here curling the 30s, painfully aware that that is not a lot of weight, I can tell you, and I don't have awesome arms. In fact, like genetically, my stronger muscles are like my calves, my abs, and my chest. My arms and shoulders are genetically not my best. Going from being able to do these with like 20s to 30s over the course of a year helped me add a lot more size to my arms than any of the more shortened position work I was doing. So I have seen a lot of evidence that says these lengthened exercises, even just doing partials in those lengthened positions, are great for growth. And I have seen more growth on my own physique from the incorporation of more lengthened work. So let's finish the day here with a nice set of these kind of more shortened position cable curls. And I think that'll do it. So I did 6 sets of biceps, 3 supersets. I did 2 rows here, 2 rows here, and then I did 6 sets of overhead lat work. So we did 10 sets of back, 7 of which incorporated elbow flexion. And then we did 6 sets of biceps, which were all elbow flexion. So in that whole workout, I got 13 sets that trained my biceps, 6 directly, 7 indirectly. And I got 10 sets that trained my back, 3 of which were really mostly back, 7 of which incorporated some biceps. So 10 and 6 is 16. For a natural beginner to intermediate lifter, I think that's a great day of training. I think it's more than efficient if the sets are close to failure. And I don't know when we started or where we're at on time, but like I think that's about a 40 to 45 minute workout. If you do that like 2 to 3 times a week, not just for one muscle, but like let's say you did a push day, a pull day, and a leg day, and trained everything 1 time a week for 45 minutes. That would be great. If you did 3 total body days for 45 minutes and you just took that workout and you cut it into thirds and just spaced it across 3 sessions, that'd be awesome. If you want to train 4 days a week, you know, you split that with some pushing work and do 2 upper sessions and 2 lowers, that'll work. Or if you're like a real beast, and a lot of you want the like 6-day split, the push, pull, leg, repeat, you could do that session twice theoretically, make some exercise adjustments, something like this, and then the next time you train pull, you do some different exercises. I think that'll put some muscle on you, some size, some strength. Obviously we hit biceps, back, rear delt, so not too much left untrained, but for 45 minutes, I think that's efficient, and you guys can literally just grab this and rip it. Expect more videos like this for other body parts, for other regions, for other goals. But if you like today's video and you kind of like the follow along workout, be sure to hit the thumbs up, hit the notification bell to know when more of these videos drop, and definitely subscribe to the channel or following me on social, podcasts, wherever, because my goal is to just give you guys pretty much all the tools you could ever need to get in shape, build muscle, live a long life, stave off disease. And it's made a big difference for me to just find people who are willing to share, and that's my goal with the channel. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next video.